Hi, I'm so pleased you can join me for my 10 ways with Velveteen paper. First, I'm just going to try stamping on with the same colour on colour. So it's lovely velvet paper. It's very soft on one side and velvety and smooth, and the other side is plain white card. Hopefully you can pick up that image a little bit and get a sense of the paper. I'm using the Ornate Thanks with cinnamon cider, and we're going in and stamping this on. Now, this is the first time I've stamped on it, so I'm just a little bit cautious, putting on a bit of extra pressure and giving it time for that ink to adhere onto the paper. So it comes out quite clearly actually, and the ink dries and it's fine, and it shows up on that paper. Next, we're going in with some embossing. I was desperate to try and see if this worked with Versamark ink, and going in with some gold embossed powder. Now, I don't use an embossing buddy, and I've gone straight in with the powder. As you can see, it does stick, so I give it a good pat on the back, flicking away any excess powder, and it does take it off. I was a bit worried I hadn't stamped the end of that, but thankfully, yes, I had covered it and it was fine. So going fairly careful with my heat tool. Now, it does blow away some of the powder. It doesn't have that shiny, full embossed effect that you get with cards, but it still had quite a cool effect. Years ago, I saw this idea on velvet paper where I couldn't remember what to do. Either you heat the stamp or the paper, and it's supposed to leave an impression onto the paper. Now, I'm going to try and show you how this comes out. You can barely see that it has made an impression. It wasn't worthwhile me pursuing this idea, as it didn't show up very well. You could just about catch a glimpse there in the light. For another idea, I'm using these foam sheets that Stampin' Up has started selling, and I'm just cutting it down to size for my strip to stick on the back. Using the playful alphabet dies, I'm spelling out the word thanks, not forgetting to put your dies in the right way up, and I run that through the embossing machine. The dies come out perfectly fine, and it actually cuts away that whole bit with through the velvet paper and the sticky pad as well. So this is great for being able to make 3D words. I'm really pleased with how this came out. You can see a few of the bumps from where the dies are, but I just think it adds extra texture. The great thing about this die set is that the outline is already on the sticky sheet, so you know exactly where to put your dies back. So handy, so helpful. Okay, next, just showing you how easy it is to punch out those shapes from the paper. And also to show you with the tweezer test that you can add texture using tweezers with the punched shapes. And this holds its shape nicely. Just using the tweezers to bend each petal. And this just adds dimension to your flowers and your leaves. Next, we're going in with our sponge brayer, and I'm trying colour on colour or tone on tone using the Highland Heather on the Highland Heather velvet paper. I wanted to create an ombre effect with this and to see if the sponged ink would work onto my strip of paper. You have to give it a good going over before the ink starts adhering, but I persevered, and then I stepped up to a darker colour using Gorgeous Grape. This just helped to give my ombre effect that I was after. And there you can see how it's turned out. So I left the top as it is. Next, I wanted to give a go with dry embossing. So I'm using the Subtles embossing folder, popping in a couple of strips of the soft sea foam. And I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. And this gives a nice deep impression. Because it's velvet paper, it just adds that extra texture. It's really pretty, and it shows up really well with the embossing folder. Next, I'm using one of our masks, again just using colour on colour, so using the cinnamon cider ink with my soft makeup brush and laying down the ink all over the mask, keeping it as steady as I can while I apply that colour on to the velvet paper. Wow, as you can see, it's come through, and I love this look of the tone on tone. And also you can do this with other colours and mix and match, but I love the look of this. I just think it looks really luxurious and a really fun way to use the velvet paper. I wanted to show you in this how easy it is to cut the paper. I'm using our Stampin' Up trimmer. There's no fluffy edges, it cuts through really nice and easily. I wanted to give this a go with using Stampin' blends to colour in the velvet paper. So again, I'm just bringing in one of my masks and I'm using, again, tone on tone colours. So going in with the soft seafoam blends to colour in my dots. I then add in some lighter colour for a bit of blending. You may notice this card doesn't appear later because I ended up stamping on it and it just didn't work out. But as you can see, the results are absolutely fine, and yes, you can colour in with the blends using the felt tip end of your markers. Really fun way of adding colour to your paper. I saw a technique using flock paper or this similar velvet paper with a transfer tape, and I thought I'd give it a go with our new Stampin' Seal Plus. So being a strong adhesive, I hoped that if I just ran down a strip and stuck a colour of another velvet paper on top, the colour would transfer. So I cut the same size paper so it was easy to line up in the hope that I could get a double impression, having the flock or the velvet taken off one and then having it a strip on the other. Now I pulled it apart, and as you can see, no, it didn't really work. It was the wrong kind of tape, it didn't work. So I was determined to try again, and this time I'm using tear and tape. Maybe slightly stronger, different kind of adhesive. I thought while I was here I'll give it a go and experiment to see if this would work. So pulling off the backing, and this time not been too careful where I stick it, but just to try and get some of that paper transferred on, giving it a really good rub with my bone folder and burnishing that paper on to see if it made any difference to helping the colour transfer. Much more success. So although it doesn't transfer the colour fully, there is definitely a transfer of colour, and it leaves you with this lovely kind of soft stripe in the lilac colour. So now I'm going to show you the cards that I've made up with all that I've been doing. This was the one with the So Grateful stamped on it, and I've added some gold emboss with the Comfort and Hope stamp set. This is the embossed So Grateful one that we did. Again, like I said, it doesn't come out as shiny as you'd expect, but still gives a really fun effect to the card. I threw a lot of the ideas onto this. So we've got the letters, we've got the ombre, and we've got the punched flowers. I love the way this card has turned out. I just love the tone on tone look and just the way all the velvet pieces have come together to make this card. So cutting the ombre strip to separate the wording. Next, this is the strips of subtles that we subtle folder one that we did, and just adding the stamped butterflies from Butterfly Gala and some flower confetti across the page just to add some more detail to my card. With this one, I didn't want to cover up that really lovely kind of flourish design that we used with the masking, so I've just kept it simple using the lovely U stamp set to add some detail in the centre and down the left hand side of the card, and a sentiment from Ornate Thanks. So this is my alternative card to the blender pen one. So I've used the blender pen to go around the edge of the card here and to add those dots onto the paper. So it still worked out fine. I managed to stamp on the paper and I came up with this card instead as an alternative. And here's that card that we used for transferring the flock on flock or velvet to velvet with the tear-in tape. So I just kept it simple. I can go ahead and add a sentiment later, but I just wanted to show that off. And I used a sprig punch to add some more detail to the side of the flowers and the leftover subtle embossing that I had. The other technique I forgot to mention on here was that I die cut around using the stitch framelits, so you can do die cutting with the velvet paper as well. So loads of techniques for you to get on with and enjoy with this gorgeous velveteen paper. Do subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video and comment below.